It seems we can march up and down the main street of Dublin and any town or village in this country, but the government doesn't seem to give a damn. Now, if you watched my last video from a couple of days ago, you will already know, and if you didn't, why didn't you? Anyway, that's by the by. You'll already know that I went to the protest march on Sunday.
Marcus behind us. Take it easy, lads, anyway. Our streets.
With many, many thousands of people, patriots, people who are against what the government is doing to this country, to this people. In effect, they're genociding us. They are erasing us. They are wiping us off the map. They're turning us into the Etruscans, the Aztecs. We'll just be a footnote in history. Or we mightn't even be that, because the victors will be writing history and we mightn't even be there. As George Orwell famously wrote in the much-quoted 1984, history is rewritten to suit the modern age. That's the basic theme of the book. In fact, Winston Smith's job in the main protagonist in the book, his job was to rewrite history to fit what the regime wanted to teach people. So once they've successfully gotten rid of us, there's nobody left to stand up and fight the fight, march the march, or protest the protest, well, they'll just rewrite the history and write us out of it. And don't think they won't, because communism, leftism, socialism, they take no prisoners. As far as they'd be concerned, they'd just be righting a wrong, and they would sleep soundly in their beds every night. Now, on the last video, I posed the question, I threw the question out there to the great and the good, because the great and the good watch my channel. You know who you are, and I appreciate and love you all, even the ones who hate watch me, because you leave comments, and that drives the algorithm. So, keep it up. Does that sound a bit sexual? Edit that out. Yeah. Even the ones who hate watch me. Yes, I love you all equally. Now, I posed the question the other day because this was the mood music that I sensed on the day in the midst of this absolute sea of patriots and patriotic flags, the tricolour. I sensed a mood that we had been there before. We had gone to various protests, some more than others, some to all, driving around the country like absolute heroes. Well, the mood music was, well, do we just keep doing this? And Micheál Martin or Simon Harris or whoever it is in the political circles comes out and just poo-poos the whole thing and says, look, that's just a bunch of headbangers. We don't care about them. We got elected, so essentially we can do whatever the hell we like for another 5 years, and you can't do anything about it. And many, many people that I spoke to posed the question, well, if we keep doing this and it doesn't work and nothing changes and the government ignores it, then what? And my 2 cents back of an envelope conclusion as to what's going on here in a very overall general sense is that the government, the people in power, who are essentially puppets on strings for Brussels, for the EU and for global corporations, not to mention the Davos crowd, WEF, but I won't go down that road. These puppets in Leinster House, which is not a parliament, it's essentially a county council, is all it is. They're going to try and tough this out. This is my take. They're going to try and just tough this out, ignore the protests, whether it be 10,000, 50,000 or 500,000. They're going to do head in the sand material. They're just going to stick their heads in the sand because that's what the EU is paying them to do, and they're going to try and ignore all that sea of tricolours, all of the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people, ordinary Irish people of all ages, marching under their flag, the patriotic flag of Ireland, up and down the main streets of Dublin, of Carrickmacross, of Clonmel, of Galway, of Limerick, of Cork last week. Cork, yes, massive rally. They're going to try and just ignore it. pretend it's not there, and send out the memo to all their lackeys, the bootlickers in the mainstream media. Don't cover this protest. Or if you do, then make sure you skew that coverage that would make the old Soviet Union TASS or Pravda blush. And that's exactly what they're doing. So I threw that question out into the public arena, because the comment section on my channel is where all the good stuff happens. It's where all the action happens. I'm just the front man. And I got many comments, and very, very astute comments, and very, very good comments. And I wanted to bring some of them to you because I want this conversation to happen. I want this ebb and flow of ideas, of thoughts, of concepts, of plans, of possible ways forward. I want it all to be thrown around there. Let's bounce stuff off the walls. Let's toss things up and see where it lands. Let's get this going, because we can't just keep coming out on every highway and byway and main street and suburb of towns, villages and cities in Ireland and peacefully marching, which we have done on numerous occasions already, for the government, the so-called democratically elected government, to ignore us, to ignore the will of the people, because that's not democracy. It's something, but it isn't democracy. So here's a snapshot, here's a flavour of some of the comments, and I'm grateful for all comments, and this is just a flavour, it's just a taster of what I've gotten in, and I want this to be the spark, the catalyst that sparks more comments and more solutions, possible solutions or ways forward if the marches don't have any effect, as currently they are not doing. First up, we have from Ban All NGOs. They'll only listen if we bring the protest to the Dáil or block Dublin Port, says All NGOs. Septic Calling says, for this to end peacefully, you'll need a single strong political party behind which support can coalesce. It'll need a full manifesto, so it can't be branded as a one-trick pony, and can pull support from your establishment uniparty. The alternative doesn't bear thinking about. In 1916, you had a common enemy, us Brits, but civil war, which is what it could get to, is not a pretty thing. I fear that it's heading that way over here. A very astute and sobering comment from someone who I assume is of British extraction and lineage, and their people, their tribe, are facing the existential crisis, the existential emergency that we ourselves here in Ireland are facing. We have commonality now. We need, I believe, to put our heads together and figure this out. We need to stand together and come up with plausible solutions. Otherwise, in a very short space of time, none of us will be around. Ronan Brown writes, deport the politicians to the Falklands. Ronan, with all due respect, don't you think the people in the Falklands have suffered enough than to be foisted and have foisted on them this bunch of cretins? Michael Carolan says, block all the main roads at one time, as agreed, by having traffic move at 20 kilometres per hour for 1 hour, once a week, until they listen. Joe Rarch 1 says, Derek looking as handsome as ever. No, that's a good one. Keep that one. Don't edit that out. No, that's a good one. Keep that. Irrelevant. It's relevant if I say it's relevant. Don't forget who's paying you. You're doing it for free. What's that got to do with anything? Leave it in, is what leave it in. That's a good one. Derek Nesbitt says, back in the late 60s, the protests in Northern Ireland went unheard, and so the guns came out, and that country lost 30 years. Beware of history. Graham Light says, the trade unions steal your money from source, and the NGOs steal your money from government. The Irish government is providing significant funding to support the media sector. Look at the media from the Journal to the Irish Times, quote, thick with tricolour flags. It's very clear and not normal speech. Words have two meanings. Why is every news outlet using the exact same phrases unless it has been handed to them? It's an evil trinity of organisations with their hands in your pocket and using your money against you. The counter-protest is paid by you. The counter-protest is paid by you. And that's very, very true and very astute. Because the government, the NGO sector, the massively bloated NGO sector, and the mainstream media, they're all one block. They're not independent actors doing their own thing, ploughing their own furrows. No, they act in unison. They all act hand in glove. They're all getting paid. They're all at the trough. And you know what the trough is? It's your money. It's taxpayers' money. They're all paid by you to destroy you. And if you don't know that already, then you haven't been paying attention. Wildflowers says, much more needs to be done. We need to block the streets, big protests outside the Dáil, not hold protests on days when a lot of people are at Croke Park or other sports games. Worth considering. And I'll finish off on this one, not because that's all the comments I got, because if I was to go through all of the amazing comments I got, and I want more of them, this video would take over 8 hours long. And even my most avid fans, subscribers and watchers would probably get fatigued after about 5 hours. So I thought, let's keep this quick and to the point. This is to spark the debate. We want solutions. We need solutions. We need to plot and plan a way forward. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I leave you with Flying Thor, who writes, afraid without a unifying figure on the centre-right, someone who can take the best of the right-leaning people from the plethora of small nationalist parties and some of the independents. This movement won't be successful politically. The system is geared towards the main parties. So that leaves 2 options. 1, rebellion. We take a leaf from the French and go absolutely effing nuts on the streets, grind the country to a halt until demands are met. Lots of arrest, lots of destruction, lots of violence. Not ideal. 2, insurrection within an established party. Convince enough people to become members of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin and take over from within. They have the funding, the political machinery, and 2 of them have hands on the levers of power. If we can take some control of that, threaten to remove backing from sitting TDs in upcoming elections, unless they meet our demands. Not an easy thing to do, but there is precedent. Look at what happened to Labour in the UK by the Corbynites. That is, well, let's just say that's food for thought. Comment down below. This is a small snapshot, but I and many, many others in the patriotic nationalist movement, people who are invested in trying to save our people, to try and stop our unique Irish culture and heritage from going extinct. They read the comment section. They read your comments. I read your comments. This is the forum. Get the ideas out there, because marching up and down every main street in every village, town and city may not work. They may just say, we'll tough this out, we won't watch, we'll close our eyes and close our ears and look the other way, because Ursula von der Leyen tells us to. We need a plan. They are desperate that we never get one. And that's all the more reason why we must get one. Be under no illusion. They're nervous. Oh, they're nervous. They never admit it, but they are nervous. And they're nervous for good reason. We, the people, are making them nervous. And that's exactly how it should be. The next step is they're no longer nervous. They're afraid. And that day, as far as I'm concerned, can't come quick enough.